Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Too Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. You know, we're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Too Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Too Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I'm so excited. Today, I've got director, cinematographer, holistic healer, Mark Kohl with me. So welcome, Mark.
How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I don't often get to throw in that last one, so that was kind of nice.
Yeah. There's a lot of people looking at me behind you. I think they're all looking at me. So you're kind of
like
blending
holistic
into.
Healer.
Yeah.
Well, so let's start this way, Mark. Let's talk entertainment first, and what got you interested into going into the entertainment business? Difficult business to get into. And how did it kind of lead you to the cinematography side, the directing side, and not in front of the camera?
Interesting. Well, I kind of fell into it. I was actually in Jacksonville, Florida, a long time ago, many decades ago, and I was actually a guitar player in somewhat of a southern rock band for a long time as a teenager. It was, a couple, maybe a decade or so after Leonard Skinner had left the town, but that's where the birth of that music came from. And so I was in that for, a few years, and it just wasn't suited for me. I was, I guess deep down, I've always been an entrepreneur, and just musicians just wouldn't operate on the kind of drive and schedule and work that I was about. And they just drove me crazy. So I went, I can't deal with this. And but one of the guys that was one of our roadies worked at a film company, and I had said to him, "Hey, if you're ever looking for someone, I had a little bit of photography. I had some photography interest, and I had a Hawkeye black and white, or I guess whatever, camera, the old Hawkeye cameras, and so I got one day that they were looking for somebody in the video department, and video had just come out, and I got a job originally selling VHS video cameras and stuff, and but I didn't really connect with that, but they had broadcast equipment as well, and they had a studio in the back that wasn't being used. So I was really interested in that, just checking it out. And I remember when I first started messing with the cameras, it just felt kind of natural to me. Like I'm self-taught with everything I've done. I
Really?
barely made it out of high school. Yeah. And so I figured out how to run these things. They were really difficult back in the day. They broke all the time. They needed alignment. They would overheat. So a lot of it was technical knowledge. But yeah, so I started shooting corporate videos, started shooting training films. You know, those back in the day, we would shoot the cable commercials of the guy on the car lot screaming at you. Our budgets were like $75 a commercial, and you know, we'd literally, I remember we had my buddy's Jeep. We would literally, the sales guys would sell the commercial or try to, or make us make the commercial before he even sold it. So we didn't know that. And we would show up at some, clothing store, car lot. We'd, jump out, shoot the sign, shoot the front of the building, run in, start shooting all the products. And people like, what are you doing here? And then we'd leave and we'd cut together a commercial, and then the guy would sell it to them.
That's
So
fun.
yeah, yeah. So anyway,
What
then
do
I
you do
broke.
if they decided they didn't want it?
I don't know, but he was just we were just kids, and but we had expensive equipment that people didn't have, and so then I broke out on my own and figured it out and started building up a career and started getting better and better at the craft, learning how to kind of run a business. The business is constantly evolving, constantly changing. You're constantly having to stay sharp on your craft, to reinvent yourself, to all these things. And just being, I've always been independent like that. And all of that together with production, which is different on every shoot, it kept me excited, because I like different stuff all the time. Repetition does not, I don't, and boredom, I don't, doesn't sit well with me. So I'm
I think
always thinking, I'm
that's kind
always
of an
learning.
entertainment business staple, right? Most people are in the
Yeah,
business are like that.
yeah, and that actually is what got me to mental health.
Yeah.
because the rats are running on the hamster wheel, or the hamsters are running on the hamster wheel very fast all the time. And so a very active, creative mind. I think I didn't do well in school because they called me, I was fidgety, and I wouldn't sit still, and was hyperactive, right? Well, now we have all these terms, but I had a lot of interest in things, and I found the conventional way of learning too slow for me, and there was no internet, so I was always curious, always building things, always whatever. So when I got into that, once I'm the kind of guy that once I get into something, you can't like stop me.
Yeah.
So I built up this business with zero training of anything, and it got successful, and I had a very active, successful production company in Florida, and then I built a rental company with equipment out of there for probably over 25 years,
Yeah.
and won a lot of awards. I started shooting pretty much everything that came through Florida. Florida lit up in the 90s as far as a production hub for locations and stuff. And then the show America's Most Wanted
Oh yeah.
kept coming through Jacksonville because of all the crime. And they were doing show after show, and finally they hired me, and then that kind of launched me because everybody was from Los Angeles and New York, and the directors. So I became one of their popular shooters. So for, I don't know, 25 years, I shot over, I don't know, 150 some recreation episodes all over the place. And so that got me connected to Los Angeles. And then the directors and producers that hired me as a cinematographer started pulling me into their movies, started pulling me into their TV shows. And that's how I built it out. But along the way, there was a lot of mental anguish, you
Right.
know, to say the least. And um, yeah, so that's what I did. And then I don't know if your next question is how did I transition into the mental health space,
Well,
but
yeah, it is going to be my next one. I was going to mention that we loved the Quest, and you were involved with that.
oh boy, was I.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a fun
Yeah.
show. We had Braden De La Garza came on the show, so we talked to him, and that got us interested in watching shows. Pretty interesting show. I mean, there's a lot of reality stuff out there, but I thought this one was really well done.
Well, it won 3 Emmys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he played trying to remember the character he played, but yeah, no, they were awesome actors. It was done by the producers of Lord of the Rings and the producers of The Amazing Race. And
What a combo.
yeah, and guess who had to shoot it? Me. So I was the cinematographer. So literally, they didn't speak the same language. You know, you got reality television versus $200 million movie, and it, so I had done both. So we had two directors. So we're doing scripted, right? So it's a 3-part concept is the way I looked at it. Is we had a movie, we had a scripted story, and then we dropped in 8 real kids, that know nothing, not actors. They didn't know anything. We literally kicked them out of a van and they kind of walked up to a castle. Didn't know, they knew they were going to be on a TV show, but they had no idea
Yes.
anything about it. And then
Fun.
they interact with actors who stayed in character with their questions. So nobody knew what the kids were going to say. So the actors had to really they were very skilled because they had to be able to ad lib, stay in character, be able to answer the questions that these kids had about this environment. And then we went to full competition mode, which is, they're solving a puzzle, doing solving a challenge,
The Amazing Race side of it, I guess.
Right. So it went from, actors that hit marks and we block scenes and we get coverage to who knows what, live television, and that was a challenge. And it was somewhat revolutionary because it was the first reality show that was shot widescreen. I shot it,
Right.
everybody wanted it cinematic. So I said, okay, let's do it anamorphic. So we shot widescreen, even the live component, and that had never been done before. So part of my challenge was, do we make the reality component look different so people know those are real people, or do we make it all the same and they think that
Right.
maybe they're bad actors, or we're doing a recreation of a reality show? We don't know. It was because it was new territory.
Yeah.
So I just said, let's make everything look as high end as possible. And it's hard to make live television look like a $200 million movie because people are not hitting their marks and they do go into the darkness and they're not finding the right light and the frame is not always good. But I think it worked well. So
It
it
did.
was a challenge. It was a
And the
challenge.
fact that it won awards, I mean, you did a pretty good job on it.
Yeah. I mean, it was hard. We did 8 1-hour episodes in 20 days in the middle of COVID, 300 and 300 plus crew members, all with masks on. Like I didn't know it. I couldn't. It was so hard to find anybody. Just like,
Oh, I know. Yeah, you
yeah,
couldn't recognize anybody with masks on.
nope, nope.
No, I thought it was really
Or hear them.
well. Is there going to be a season 2 for that?
Not that I'm aware of. I think they even pulled it. I'm not sure what's going on
Yeah, it's a
with
shame.
it.
It's such a fun concept. We were hoping for a season 2.
Yeah, a lot of people. There's a big fan base, but I don't know what goes through networks,
No, it's
people's
right. I know
heads,
there's
and
a lot going into it.
they constantly change staff. So people want to bring their ideas in and kill the old regime's ideas, and so it's hard to tell. But it was an expensive show, so I would
Well, I'm
think they
sure
would
that
at
figured
least
into
keep it
it.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't cost you anything to keep it on a hard drive somewhere, so
Yeah,
I think they
very
could.
true. Yeah, it doesn't take
Yeah,
up space.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so now my question is, how do you go from working in the entertainment business to transitioning to more of a holistic healing type of venture?
Well, it was all like I throughout this insane business, which can be quite exciting. Um, now I started having trouble probably 20 years ago now when, you know, there was not many spiritual modalities really available or known, especially in Florida where I was living. But I was struggling with just staying calm and was, had anxiety and a lot of fears. And, obviously the film business is full of tremendous stress
Oh yeah.
constantly. And I would hold it together. I was known for, my real skill, I think, is actually not so much like lighting or whatever thing. It was executing the job no matter what the conditions are. I was a soldier and people could count on me, and I always did the impossible and came through. So that had a value to it. But
Stressful.
it took its toll. I was working at a pace that you can't work at forever, and I knew I was going to something was going to happen. I was going to burn out. I was going to have a heart attack. Something was going to happen because you can't work at that pace.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an addiction. If you're always working, you're never sitting alone with yourself. You don't even know yourself. You don't even know who you are,
Yeah. It's
right?
avoidance.
So, well, yeah, and that's really a lot of the stuff I'm going to say was unknown to me at the time because you don't know what you don't know, right? So, but alcohol was a big part of the business, and it was a big part of my family tradition, and it was a big part of calming me down at the end of the day, and it worked very well for a while. And but I became really dependent on it. And then, what would happen is, I'd go from a general leading an army of hundreds of crew members through a swamp for a month on some crazy show to sitting on the couch the next day watching Netflix. And you're going, what happened? I have no purpose. I'm a general without an army, and I'm sitting here and I have no friends really because I'm always gone. So everybody else is, married or whatever. And I'm living in this 5-bedroom house in the ocean by myself, and I don't know what to do. And with the chaotic creative mind, I'm bored, right? And so, boredom is a big thing. But alcohol would kind of just settle everything down,
Yeah.
and
Well, it's good for that, at least for a
it
while.
does. Yeah, exactly. It served its purpose, and it was not only acceptable, it was expected where I lived. Everybody went to happy hour every night, literally. You know, of course, most of them are probably dead now. I mean, it's just crazy because it catches up with you, but no one knew, no one know. And so it was a way of life. And then, like I've said this many times before, it served its purpose. It was fun, and then it was fun with problems, and then it was just problems.
Yeah.
And I became a true, I don't like labels, but I went from wanting it to needing it. And
Yeah.
then I
That's a
knew I
dangerous
had a
place.
problem. And it's one of the most addictive substances out there, alcohol. It really is. And 80% of our jails are full of alcohol related crimes. It's one of the number one killers in men in Russia, Scotland, Ireland. I think it's all the number one killer, alcoholism. I think like I said, 80% of our crimes are alcohol related. Domestic abuse, nobody's beating anybody up on mushrooms.
That's right.
Uh, you know, it's probably one of the number one killers. We just don't call it alcoholism. We call it liver failure or
That's right.
kidney failure,
Yeah. It's all
or
the
because
stuff that it causes.
it's like cancer. It just, it completely destroys the body and mind,
Well, because you're
um,
basically just putting poison into yourself. And most of us do
1000%.
that, but it's not good for you.
If you take pure gin and you dump it in your car, it will drive. It's called ethanol. That's the same substance, basically, right? So the actual poison, your body attacking that poison is what gets you drunk,
Right.
right? So, but yeah, that's a big conversation too, but we won't get into that now. But I became alcoholic, and I was, waking up in the morning shaking so bad I couldn't, really work. I remember showing up on a couple jobs where I had to, run camera, and I was shaking. I couldn't, that's not good for a
Oh, yeah.
cameraman to be
Tough.
shaking.
Yeah.
Right. So, and it got worse and worse. So I was not I denied it for a little bit, but then I knew deep inside that no, this has got a grip on me. And I, got a couple DUIs, and I, went to AA a bunch. I went to hundreds of AA meetings, and I would relapse again. And I went to therapy. I did
Wow.
everything you could imagine. I had a little money back then. I spent money. I was really trying to stop this behavior. And I just couldn't do it. I went to, I think, 4 rehabs. I had, I would stop drinking for a month, and then something would, I'd go on a date or somebody, and why can't you? People go, why aren't you drinking? What's wrong with you? And
Right.
isn't it just, I find that so insane, right?
We
It's
all
like
do
we
that.
don't go up to, yeah, but we don't go up to people and go, oh, you're not
Yeah.
smoking crack. What's wrong with you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right.
Like I mean, it's really ridiculous. But that's the pressure that it was like back then and where I lived. And like there was something wrong with me if I wasn't drinking. Do you have a problem? And now thinking back, I wanted to go, everybody in here has a problem. you know, like I'm, you're in, like this is an alcoholic room. Everybody's drinking. So, so anyway, I had to get out of that environment because everybody I knew drank. Everything I went to was alcohol.
Yeah.
So I would always relapse, right? And what I realize now is we we have we have this story, and I've said this on other podcasts too, but we have this story in our heads of who we think we are,
That's right.
right? It's our core identity. It's an imaginary story, but we have it, and we don't always know we have it, and we always don't know what it is, right? But some of it, and I think our story changes throughout life, right? So, I mean, I had the story that I was a hot director, cinematographer. That was my story.
Right.
This came out way later in life. And what the brain does is, or the mind actually, is it wants the ego part wants to subconsciously validate that story
That's right.
constantly, unknowingly, right?
Right.
So my core identity was attached to that story of, hotshot director guy. So if I wasn't working, I wasn't validating that story. I started validating the story that I'm loser. I'm not working. Somebody else got that job, right? So a lot of jobs I was doing, I realized I was just doing it to get the job. I didn't care about what it was
Yeah.
because some of it sucked, but I was validating my story as a director. The more I worked, the more people talked about me, the more I made, that guy's working all the time, and whatever. That's a big deal in Hollywood or in the movie business, right? So, so it was always about, so as work went well, I was good, but work was not well, I was not well.
Sure.
So I would drink more and more, right? Because I didn't know what to do with my excess time. I didn't have any hobbies because I was working all the time. I would get so burned out, I'd sleep for a few days, but then I'd get up, and I had no friends because they're, like I said, they're not waiting on me. I'm out of town for a month at a time, right? So got really lonely. I was on the road by myself. I remember looking at a suitcase going, I'm on the road 150 days a year to pay for a 5-bedroom house I'm never at, you know, and that
Crazy.
kind of stuff started kicking in. And then I have 2 boys, and they, grew up and went to college, and one went in the military. And then my story of my purpose of being a dad, that kind of went away too. So all of a sudden this intersection during the recession and everything kind of just started creating another narrative that I was a washed up alcoholic director. And that's what was so common in the business. They were everywhere. Um, there were guys that it was just like they burn out, they go to rehab, they get, they end up either dying, losing their house, whatever, because Hollywood doesn't want them anymore, or they're not hireable, the reel's old, or whatever. The new thing comes in, and they almost all struggle with some sort of addictive behavior to because their career has faded. So then my story was that, and that I'm a washed up alcoholic director like all these other people, and subconsciously I would validate that. So no matter how many AA meetings I went to, no matter how many therapy sessions I went to, shots of whatever, I would pick up a drink because I'm subconsciously validating the story that I'm unlovable, that I'm unhireable, that I'm old, that I'm drunk. And that's how I started living. And unconsciously, we sabotage ourselves. We do it. Everybody does it.
Everybody.
Right? Right. So when people ask me, how did I change? I said, and again, not knowingly, but I realized how I changed is I changed my story. My story is very different now, and I look at ways to validate that.
Yeah.
Right. So what got me out of the because I tried everything conventional, and it it didn't work. It didn't stick. Right. And I'm not a lazy person. I worked hard to get better, really hard, but I was just going down the wrong road, I guess. And until I discovered psychedelics almost 10 years ago now, 9 years ago, and actually broke all of my um, belief systems, like all of them, and showed me that everything, just pretty much everything I thought about what was real was not. And I started seeing the real truth. You see the consciousness in nature. You see the infinite wisdom of what put this together, the magic in life, the beauty in life, how we're all connected. And my first experience was an ayahuasca ceremony. I went to my last rehab in Malibu. And by the way, on another note, I've been trying to get to LA my entire life because I knew it had a consciousness and a spiritual practice here. I thought it was the movie business, but it wasn't. It was this higher consciousness thinking, healing place of the smartest and most advanced people lived here. And I know I needed to be with that because we grow to our environment. And I want to be around people that are smarter than me. And I wanted to rise to that.
I
In
get
Florida,
that.
yeah.
My wife and I have had that conversation of, she's very artistic, and she kind of made that decision years ago to lean into that and surround herself with other artistic creatives, and that helps her to stay positive and creative and all of that. And she got rid of some of the influences that were a little negative, and got rid of that. And so she changed kind of the narrative or the story with her. So I totally get that.
Yeah, well, we're humans are, there's a saying, if you hang around four smokers, you'll be the fifth. It's simple. We simply are, we become, that's why we're still alive. That's why the species, we're the quickest, fastest adapting creature ever, right? We adapt. Look at COVID, like that, right? We adapt, and then we forget, right? We adapt to the next thing. We adapt when we go to a party. Yeah. We adapt to that thing. You have this personality right now of your podcasting. That's one side of you. You have the father side of you. You have the husband side of you. So we have these different personalities that are necessary for us to navigate life. Your podcasting personality probably doesn't work constantly you as a father or
that's absolutely right.
Yeah, right. So that's how the human being survives, right? So we should Buddha has a great saying, the point of the story is you become your environment. So, you know, he says in 3 equal parts, you should hang around people that know less than you so you can teach. A third of your friends should be on the same level intelligence as you so you can have a conversation. And then a third that know more than you so that you can learn, right? So you should look at your, you know, friends like that. And, you know, when I was always going back to the scene of the crime, and you're going to commit the crime again because that's
Right.
the environment that you. So, I mean, there's another Buddhist saying that a man cannot get better if he goes back to the same environment, which made him sick, right? So I had to get out of Florida. I had to get to a new environment. I knew it. I couldn't afford it. But one day I was dying of alcohol poisoning, and the universe basically kicked me off the cliff and said, "You need to be there and you're not going to do it. We're going to speed it up a little bit." And it put me in the hospital for the 8th time. And I ended up in rehab in Malibu, and I haven't left. So I had to leave. I had to lose everything to build this new life of everything is new. I have all new friends. I have a whole new environment, and it took a while, but now, you know, we are vetted and been around for a while in this healing modality of spirituality, yoga, psychedelics, many modalities of mental health that are ancient. Most of them are ancient and scientific technologies. We mix them kind of all together, whatever works. But I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by the human mind, how it thinks, the potential of it. And it's just back in the day, I did a lot of, you know, those crime shows. I was always interested in the criminal mind, like how these guys pull it off? What were they thinking? Why were they doing it? You know, and that so that kind of stuff fascinates me. So when I got into, you know, Kundalini yoga, which is the ancient technology of the mind, the spirit, and, you know, came from Egypt, it's very advanced. And I started learning some of the secrets and the tricks of, you know, the Egyptians and Tibetan Buddhists, and I started seeing what they do to connect, and our the potential we have, and how we're like creating this insane reality that is detrimental to humanity. I mean, it's crazy. It's literally crazy. And once you do these, you know, practices or psychedelic journeys, you come out of that and you see it so obvious. It's hard to close the box. You
Yeah,
can't not
I
see it
think that's
anymore. You can't unsee it. You
that's
can't
right.
unsee
Yeah,
it.
once you've kind of went there, you can't ungo there.
Yeah.
Once you know, you know.
And that's the thing. So, and I believe a big chunk of our physical ailments are psychosomatic.
Yeah.
You know, when we believe that I'm like, when I talk with people, I said, be very careful of labels. Like, as a humans have to measure everything, they have to label everything. And the world is not, there's no straight line in nature. There's no mathematics in nature. There isn't. There's a, you know, we have to create these concepts of measurement and scale and weight and ideas to be able to understand the infinite, right? That's just the only way we can do it, right? But in the real quantum field, there is none of that. So, you know, when our people come to me and they say I'm an alcoholic, I have dementia. I go, who told you? My doctor. How many doctors? Well, one. Well, make sure, you know, we try to define these things. So if you walk around saying I have dementia, back to the story, the mind will validate that, and you will continue. You're certainly not going to get better running around saying that, you know. So the mind also has the power to heal. So, you know, there was I read just recently, some patient went to the doctor and he said, you have prostate, or not prostate cancer, what's behind in the stomach,
Oh, the colon,
uh no, he had a type of
pancreatic cancer.
pancreatic cancer,
Yeah.
thank you. And they gave him 90 days to live, and he died on day 91. and then they did an autopsy, and he did not have pancreatic cancer, right? So that's how powerful the mind is, right?
That's kind of terrifying.
But it's I mean, if you like, this is real. If you have, we can have, you wake up in terror from a dream, you're sweating, your heart is racing, like you're fine, right? But these thoughts have such a physical reaction to it. We think of them, they think they're reality, right? So
Yes.
the body's only reacting to thought, right? So if we can also say that, that's one of the reasons I don't go to Alcoholics Anonymous anymore, because I don't want to say out loud I'm an alcoholic, because I'm not. That is long, long, long gone. I don't ever want to pick up a drink again and test it. But what I'm saying is I don't live in that vibration, right? So whatever we're thinking about, I think we all agree, we give the gas pedal to. We give power to whatever we're thinking about, because if it's a problem, we're trying to solve the problem, we're trying to figure out a solution, we're trying to drive, we're trying to do whatever, and we're giving our attention to whatever that is.
That's right.
So if we're running around all day going, I'm an alcoholic, and I would go, don't drink today, don't drink today, don't drink. Well, all I'm doing is turning the knob up. You're going to drink,
You're
buddy,
just making it so you're going to drink.
And I did.
Yeah.
And it worked. Now it never, ever, ever enters in my head, right? So these are habitual habits. So these habits are neural pathways that connect to the body, and the more we do them, the deeper and stronger the pathways become, and then that becomes who we are, right? There's a saying, watch your thoughts, thoughts become habits, habits become your destiny, right?
Yeah.
So worrying is a habit, anxiety is a habit, anything's a habit, drama, whatever. Our story, the yogis say we get addicted to our story, victim, all this stuff, habitual. And then we become that, and we live in this victimhood of something that happened 20 years ago, and we never get out of it.
Yeah.
And how's that serving you?
Well, it does.
Not.
Yeah.
Right. So psychedelics help, there's sayings like, you got to work through this, I got to keep working through this. Yeah, but what if we just removed it, like as if it never happened? What if we don't have to necessarily forget it, but we don't have to bring up the emotion that comes with it, right?
Yes.
So when you pull back a memory of trauma, it's just like a computer opening up an old window on the desktop. So when we pull that up, with it comes the body relives it. Joe Dispenza stuff. The body relives it. So we start feeling sad or traumatized from whatever that event is, right? It could be joy as well. You hear a song, reminds you of an old,
Sure.
lover or whatever, and then you feel it for a minute, right? There's an emotion that comes with that thought, right? So if our traumas, if we could actually somewhat remove it, or remove the emotion that's attached to it, and now it's just information and doesn't affect us, then we've literally removed it. We don't have to work through it, right? And relive it again. That's why working through things are hard, because you're reliving them again.
Yeah.
And that makes it powerful again. So this is the power of psychedelic healing, because psychedelic healing pulls you out of all of these illusionary ideas and these illusionary programs, who you think you are, what a trauma might have been. And maybe, I believe this wholeheartedly, having been through so many traumas, I believe that they all happened for a reason.
Right.
There was a reason, something I needed to learn, something that needed to make me a stronger man, to make my stoicism stronger, make my root system deep enough to hold the big tree of abundance and guide others and stuff. I have to be able to live through traumas if I can help people with traumas.
Yeah, that makes
I have to
complete
know it.
sense. Yeah, because what's the
Right.
thing that
Right.
makes us stronger? The difficulties that we go through. with that. Not always easy going through them, but you almost have to go through to get, to the point where you're able to help yourself and help other people.
Well, you go to the gym, and the only time when you're doing bench press or whatever, the only time it's getting beneficial is when it starts hurting.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's when the muscle is breaking down, and then the next day it rebuilds bigger. If we don't push ourselves to exhaustion where the muscle breaks down and hurts, there's no benefit. And the brain is exactly the same way. So adversity is like going to the gym for the brain. So the next time adversity comes around, you're like, I'm cool. I can deal with this. You don't get all
You've
wound
been
up.
through
You
it.
don't freak
You know
out.
you'll survive because you've already done it.
And you know what it feels like. And the mental pathways of stoic behavior, not getting emotional, come in, and you don't react. You respond. You never, when you're angry, you're rarely going to make a good decision,
That's
right?
right.
When you're freaking out, if the plane starts crashing and the pilot's flipping out, he ain't going to make the right decision.
Right.
He's panicked, right? So that's what life is about. So these little things, I believe, are tests in the universe. They're not, nothing wrong with them. They're necessary. And it also makes joy and happiness and love that much stronger, because the higher the contrast, the greater the love, right? So the more you look at people that are the happiest, they've usually been through the most horrific or testing adversities in their life, because they know what it's like to not have what we have, right? So the contrast, the greater the contrast, the greater the, because we're only here for a minute, and it's a magical gift we have. And people like myself that have been through harrowing near-death experiences more than once know that we're lucky, and we should never take this for granted. And psychedelics is just a beautiful way of reminding us of that, how beautiful it is to be human, how magical it is to be human, how there's 30 trillion cells and blood systems and nervous systems and all these magical things working in unison together to make us just get up and see and breathe. And it's just magical. It's absolutely magical. And that's what I love about the psychedelics, because it connects us with the nature, like that. It doesn't even connect us. It shows us that we are part of the same system. We're not separate.
Right.
People are always going, I'm going to go in nature. I go, you are nature, you know?
Well, so the
Yeah,
psychedelics,
we just have,
they kind of free up your mind, so that a lot of this negative thoughts and things that we have occurring kind of dissipates. Is that how it works, or is it more it just allows you to see more positivity in the world?
well, psychedelics for sure are not always pleasant. What
Right.
they show you is truth, right? They show you truth. And the truth might be, so when you first start working with them, they can be very beautiful at first, but then they can get right into it. And they get into stuff you already know you should not be doing. These
Right.
are things you know, but we justify, whatever. It shows you purpose. It shows you why you're here. And I think that's beyond important, because if you don't know why you're here, what you're doing for humanity or the collective, you're going to be lost.
Yeah.
And then you're a boat floating in the ocean with no sail. And then you're perfect for the government and for business, because you're a consumer. You're just going to buy stuff and travel and buy stuff to chase this emptiness of no real purpose. And that's great for business, right?
Yeah, I've never heard it said
So
that way, but
a
you're right.
purposeful man well, when you have meaning in life and you have clarity of truth, those together will release fear.
Yeah.
And fear is where it holds us back. And there's a very big difference between danger and fear. But fear is anxiety, fear is worry, and 97% of worries and anxieties never happen. They never happen, but they clog the brain. They alert the body that there's a problem. So the body's freaking out. It's releasing cortisol stress. It's releasing adrenaline for decades. And then the body we have a heart attack. We have high blood pressure. We get cancer because the body's thinking it's in trouble for decades. And in nature, it was in trouble for a couple of hours, right? So we, as the Buddhists say, we create our own misery. And that's where psychedelics help too. Because on a microdose level, our microdoses, the way they work, I make the analogy that these worries and anxiety created by ourselves are like windows open on the desktop of your computer, of your mind.
Yeah.
Illusionary. So they're clogging the computer, they're draining the battery, they're probably bringing viruses in, and they're not going to happen.
Yeah.
They're not going to happen, right? So what microdosing does is it shuts down these windows. And then you pull out of the zoom lens and you start to zoom back to this joy in this awareness, and you stop the nonsense, and the body starts to relax and it starts to heal, because a worried body will never heal, right? It will never heal. It's always in fight or flight, but a relaxed body will heal. And then the mind heals, and you do that over and over again. Then that becomes a habit. There's always something you can make up to worry about. But what if you didn't? Because it's not going to happen anyway. And you stop worrying. And then, like I think Marcus Aurelius says it, deal with the crisis when the crisis comes. Don't worry about it beforehand, because it might never happen, right? Deal with it when it happens.
Yeah, deal with it
So,
when it
and
comes.
just deal with it.
Well,
So psychedelics helps to show you all of that stuff. It's a biohack. It's a biohack.
It's so interesting, I think, especially if you're someone suffering from a lot of that anxiety, stress, that type of thing. I could see where someone would be really interested in that. So the company's called Frequency Caps. Talk a little bit about what's the concept behind it, and then you've been doing that, and how did the sound frequencies work into kind of enhancing the experience?
Good question. So when we started, I, self-taught, didn't know what I was doing, and lots of failure, lots of stuff. It's very difficult to grow consistently. We fight genetics issues. We fight mostly contamination. What we're using to grow everything, every other spore and bacteria wants to grow in it as well. So it's especially back 6-7 years ago. I mean, we were using mason jars and pressure cookers. It looked like a meth lab over here or something. But there's sophisticated ways. But anyway, a couple years ago, I had, was going through some fear and frustration, and I sold some medicine to a shaman, and he called me a couple days later, and he said that he had done a spiritual journey, him and his friend, deep dive on our medicine, and they both independently saw me in their journeys, and they both felt my fear, and they both saw the contamination. And he said, your frequency is in the medicine. You gotta, like, it's picking up your anxiety. It's in it. And I went, that's way too random. That's way, way, way too random. I didn't tell him anything. Two people.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So that's when, but I had been studying Kundalini yoga for a while, and cymatics, and Kundalini yoga is based a lot on sound currents. And then, I've worked with Joe Dispenza, and, scientifically, and string theory, and our DNA strands are vibrating, and when they're out, and our cells align with frequency when we hear certain music, and we get discord when we hear other music, and we get out of sync. And there is real science behind this. Yeah. And So I built the sound chamber, and we pump in 24 hours a day positive frequencies of Buddhist chanting, of course 432, the frequency of the earth, 528, the frequency of love. I mean, that's scientific. They've done many studies. When they play 528, the body releases oxytocin, the heart calms down, the cells align, more red blood cells, more oxygen in the blood, calmer. It's sound, man.
Amazing.
When you hear a song, well, it's simple. If you listen to a country and western song, you might even cry, right? That's information inside that sound wave. Every sound wave has data. That's a sense of data. That's data that gives you an emotion, right? And you listen to rap music or whatever, you're going to get a different set of information and create a different emotion, right? So we're
Yes.
we're selling a psychedelic experience. Like, we're not selling a tomato that might taste different in a sound environment. We're doing something that's going to take you on a journey, and you want it as high vibe as possible, and that's what we do. And we're very experienced at it. We just
Yeah.
came from Psychon, the psychedelic.
Well, I was going to ask you
We
about
yeah, the
psychons.
psychedelic. It was we were a big hit. It was
Okay.
great. We I didn't realize that we're really the only vendor that I saw that's doing it with positive intention.
Yeah.
Like, everybody else is synthesizing it, jamming it into gummies and putting it into, I mean, they even have those like those little Listerment lozenge, those little
Yeah, I've
paper
seen
things
those.
that dissolve it. I mean, they're just like,
Well,
this is
once you
Mother
get
Earth's
corporate
medicine.
into it, it changes it.
Yep. I mean, the mushrooms have been here way before we have to help us, and we're trying to protect that
Yeah.
and not put it in a lozenge. um so that's what makes us different, and everybody that works here has struggled with some sort of addiction or mental health issue, and psychedelics help them. So everybody we work with, everybody that sells or represents us, mushrooms have changed their life. And that's the thing. I want to run this with pure authenticity. We're not, hiring salespeople or whatever. We're simply building our network through authentic referral systems of people that have sat in ceremony with us, or mushrooms have changed their life, and they want to share that healing information with them. And we have hundreds and hundreds of people texting, calling all the time how we saved their marriage,
Yeah.
they stopped drinking, they didn't kill themselves. Lots of veterans,
Amazing.
lots of veterans. Yeah, and we're just trying to protect the medicine, help people, but try to protect the essence of the medicine as it is in nature,
Yeah.
right? And not everything we have is pure material from the fruiting body of the mushroom. We don't synthesize anything. We don't do anything like that. Yeah.
Well, and I know, like I was telling you about my wife, if she was purchasing that, that's exactly what she'd be looking for, because she doesn't like all the
Right.
synthetic stuff and artificial stuff.
No,
Yeah,
no.
I
I
think
mean, tobacco is a healing plant. We butchered it. Tobacco in nature, Native America, Peru, it's a healing plant. But we butchered it and disrespected it. And that's what we're doing now. And but I'll tell you one thing, people want to know where their psychedelic medicine's coming from. I'll
yeah,
tell you that. They don't want any, you know, I mean,
you don't want any
toxins or anything in
surprises.
it. And no, nope, you don't. And I'm not going to say you're not going to get some shadow in your journey, but your shadow, I can tell you, is something that you need to work through. And
Sure.
that's where the healing is. So, but a study just came out. I got to look up exactly where it came from. I read it, that they discovered that natural psilocybin therapy is way more successful in mental health healing than the synthetic version.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's it.
Well,
The
imagine
way
that.
in anything when it's fake, or made, man-made, it's usually not as good as what nature provides.
No, never, never. Right. And ketamine is, this is my opinion, is very scary because it's a completely synthesized man-made molecule designed for anesthesia, which is designed to make your brain and mind shut off and
Right.
forget. Right. So if you do that too many times, you will have memory loss. And they don't know enough about the brain. They don't know. Right. But the only reason they're pushing that is because that intellectual property is owned by a pharmaceutical company. Nobody owns the intellectual property of a mushroom. Right. They're trying to, well, they can't, I mean, right. How are you going to own an apple? Right. How are you going to own the intellectual? They try. You can own the process of harvesting it. You can own the process of, if you're making a recipe from it or an extraction process, you
Right.
can own that. But, you know, you can't own a piece of nature. And it's so surprising to me. How can you make a piece of nature illegal? Like, that just blows my mind. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Like, aren't we all on? But and these medicines have been around way before any country or law, and they go back. There's a book, The Immortality Key, and it's coming out in a documentary. It's going to blow everybody's mind because he revealed that all religious modalities, including Christianity, were based in some sort of psychedelic sacramental practice, including Christianity, right? But it
Yes.
makes sense because when you the elders sit around and they take peyote or smoke a peace pipe or whatever, they're all in the same vibration. We call it the set and the setting. They're all in the same mindset. They want to solve a problem as a collective of leaders, and they want to come to some sort of clear conclusion with a straight, clear mind. And when you go in these journeys, uh, you get ideas, you get information, you get solutions. You know, Silicon Valley came out of the 60s LSD revolution. All those guys stayed and they invented you know, basically, you know, Apple and all those companies. The iPhone was, you know, created on an LSD journey. Steve Jobs admitted it, right? So these new ways of living and running and operating systems have come from elsewhere,
Right.
right? They haven't come from us, right? We think linear. There's no, like I
You're
said
right.
before, there's no straight line. And,
Yeah, you're right. That
you
if
know,
left our own devices, we probably wouldn't be able to get there. We need some help.
yep. I mean, all you got to do is go look back to album covers from 1969 to 1975. I mean, so the music revolution, the psychedelic revolution, these all created systems of business and systems of art and everything that affected all of us, you know? So, yeah, I could talk about this stuff for hours. I don't
No,
want to eat
Mark,
up all
and
your
thank you for
podcasts. Yeah.
taking some time. You may have to come back so that I've got I need to formulate more questions because I think this is such a fascinating field and it's relatively new. That's why there's so many states that haven't come around to legalizing it yet. But I think, and I'm sure you feel that way too, the time's coming. We're seeing that movement where some states may be moving a little quicker, but we're starting to see that positive movement. So really, really good. And I appreciate you coming on and kind of
Yeah.
talking through some of that stuff because it's
Yeah.
it's a lot more interesting when you're hearing it from somebody that it's actually helped.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, on that note, like, I don't think it's wise just to legalize it because it's powerful, misused, right?
Right.
There's no addiction. It breaks addictions, but you can't just have everybody, you know, going crazy on with it with no instructions.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know, ancient people respected it and it was revered and it was sacred and they always did it in ceremonial practices, so they didn't have that wild west kind of thing that Americans have, that hey, let's just eat everything and let's see what happens, you know. They did it with, you know, intention. So I think let's legalize it, or somehow figure out a system that works for everyone with some safety measures or just some education. That's exactly what I'm doing right now, is I'm trying to educate people so that we remove the fear that the government has given us that we're going to go crazy if we eat mushrooms and we're never going to come back from a journey, and we're going to be, brain damaged and, locked up like Jack Nicholson in Cuckoo's Nest or something, but it's hardly the case at all when used properly. But that's what we're here for. We're here to answer questions. We're here to you just know our products are the safest and best out there with intent. And I'm building out, educational YouTube channels, and I'm getting on obviously podcasts to educate and let people know what's really going on, and that it's very beneficial. And if anybody's struggling, please reach out to us. And it's a very high success rate of addiction, breaking addictions, very high success rate of preventing suicide, very high. And I encourage people to watch the documentary series Michael Pollan did called How to Change Your Mind on Netflix. That'll explain it, so I don't have to keep explaining it. But he's a vetted journalist, and he explains it very clearly, and how it all, what's going on and why things are the way they are and the possible potentials of it. How to Change Your Mind on Netflix.
Yeah. I've actually seen that on there. Just haven't watched it.
What, dude? It'll blow your mind.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I'll watch it with my wife. I'm sure she'd enjoy it too.
Yep, she's an artist. She will definitely enjoy it. Yep.
Well, Mark, thank you so much. Before I let you go, can you run through the frequency caps social media site, and then your own?
Sure. The website is frequencycaps.com. And our Instagram is Frequency Caps on Instagram. I think it's just Frequency Caps. But if you go to our website, you can hit the
I liked where you had all your social media links.
Yeah.
You could click them.
Yep. And then we have a YouTube channel as well. And we have a short comedy TV series we're pitching that's actually based on my life that is also on there that people might get a kick out of. So
that's awesome.
It's a comedy.
I didn't see that. I'll go back and check that out, because I probably
yeah. I mean, this stuff can get really heady, but I find it quite comical too. So, like, let's have fun in life. Let's not take all this so serious. I
agree with that, because if you don't, you're miserable.
Yogi Bhajan, the yogis, the mystics say you should sweat and laugh every day.
Well, Jimmy Valvano used to say you should cry, laugh, love at least once a day. And I think that's true.
I guess I only cry when I open up my American Express bill. I don't know. But then I laugh.
As I get older, I will cry at the drop of a hat. It used to be, when I was younger, I thought, that's not very manly. I'm not going to cry. Everything. I mean, now if I see a movie,
a puppy,
a puppy, the kids do something, anything, I get teary eyed, and I think that's a good thing.
Planes do it. When I get on a plane, I'll watch any movie, and I'll start crying. I have no idea what it is about a plane, the altitude, but everybody turns into a baby up there. Yeah, it's just So anyway, all right.
Hey, Mark, thank you so much. Please come back. Let's get back down the road and kind of see where it's going, what you've got into.
Okay. Yeah. Come visit us on the website. Ask me any questions. I'll give you some answers, and maybe you'll like some of our stuff. But we have our microdose and we have our social dose, and people are quite pleased. So we're out there to help. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mark. Hold on one second.
Okay.
A little bit different guest than we normally get, although we've had a few in the mental health and holistic health realm. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got a little something out of it. I think the psychedelic healing field it's not new. It's been around forever. But this emphasis we're getting now and this kind of push to use mushrooms and marijuana, CBD, that type of stuff as a way to help people, especially with anxiety and stress. I think it's really fascinating, and the potential is there to do amazing things, as long as we don't abuse it, which is always the danger with anything that we do. I loved his story, his kind of redemptive arc. I think we've all kind of had those battles, and I know me myself, I'm a very routine person, so I tend to get into patterns, routines, habits very quickly, and then stick with them. And I have difficulties breaking them when the occasional bad one comes through. So, I found that kind of interesting as a possible way to prevent those situations from happening. So hope you enjoyed that. Definitely check out the website. The company is Frequency Caps. You go to frequencycaps.com. It's a very well done website. It's easy to navigate. So definitely check that out. When we were offline, Mark and I were talking about, he has a page where it just lists the different vibrations, the sound vibrations that he uses, and what the effect is from those vibrations on the human body. I told him I spent all morning, I just had those playing when I was working because I wanted to kind of hear some of the sounds. That's probably, it's probably better if you're doing more of a meditation or yoga, but I just had it playing because I wanted to hear it for the interview. Check that page out. It's pretty interesting. If you're finding us for the first time, thank you. Appreciate you being here so much. My physical health has been struggling for several months now. I'm working on some solutions. I'm going through the process, trying to figure out what's going on. But one of the things that I'm struggling with is because of the physical limitations that I'm facing that I haven't dealt with before. It's causing me some mental, emotional stress. So I'm interested in this type of stuff as a way to maybe break through some of that so that it's not just weighing on me. So definitely happy to have Mark on. I'm so happy. I got off track a little bit, but I'm so happy that you're here for us as well. We definitely don't take you for granted. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. I would ask that you just subscribe. Please subscribe. It's free. Really does help us a ton. Helps us to go and recruit, encourage, persuade these terrific guests that we have on the program. We're closing in on 800 episodes. You can find all of those audio and video on our website, meistercon.com. Please check us out there. I mean, we're full service. You go to any social media, we're there. Just look up MeisterCon, look up the Too Opinionated podcast. You'll find us. We're pretty easy to find, and if you're nerdy, lots of extra special stuff in there. You'll enjoy. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Too Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. Not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. Those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, It's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free, doesn't cost you anything, really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to imdb.com, look up the Too Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.